like I said, we've got quite a few questions, and let's get straight to them. The first one is from @Melissa.Robinson05, who asks, should AJ Styles retire in WWE or AEW? Styles has made it adamantly clear that he has not got much longer left in this business, probably less than 12 months. There were also a lot of rumors, speculation, buzz going around that perhaps his WWE contract could be up very, very soon indeed. So, Clark, what I want to get your thoughts on out of the gates today is, should AJ Styles retire in the WWE, or should he go to AEW or even TNA?
So I've had to think about this one a lot because it's tough. AJ Styles kind of deserves to retire wherever he wants. I think I'd love to see him make a final appearance or a few appearances in Total Stop Non-Action Wrestling. I think that would be excellent. But we did just see Carl Anderson recently, I believe, in an AEW hoodie at one point lately.
We did.
And not only that, I think AJ and what's going on with the current state of WWE, as much as it's cool for him to retire there and stuff, he's done enough. He's going to be a Hall of Famer down the road. I have no issue with him retiring in AEW if that's where he wants to. I don't have an issue with him finishing up on a New Japan run. I think AJ Styles has earned the right to make the decision on where he actually wants to retire. I don't know necessarily if it will fully be his choice, as you've mentioned with the contract stuff when it comes to WWE. If I had to guess, and this is just shot in the dark, I do think probably AEW is actually the place he retires if the rumors are true that retirement is imminent in the near future. If it's not, if he's got another few runs, I don't see why he doesn't go to maybe AEW or do a stint in TNA, then AEW, or even a New Japan type run, something like that, and then end up back for a one-off type Mania match. I mean, remember, this is the guy that was Undertaker's last match in WWE. I could easily see AJ Styles' final match being a WrestleMania match, even if he goes to wrestle elsewhere, given this current contract situation and the rumors that are swirling. So my answer would be, I think WrestleMania, if I had my wish, would be the place for AJ. If AJ has his wish, I hope it's whatever he wants. And if it's based on about everything else, which I don't have a hand in, then I'm not 100% sure, man, because he's so dang good. It's a little bit like, it was bittersweet seeing Michael Jordan with the Wizards, right? He played great basketball and they made the playoffs, but it was just a little bit bittersweet. And I do think that he deserves that final ending because he gave it to one of the greatest of all times, or of all time. Yeah, there we go. I'm back. But he gave that type of an ending to one of the greatest of all time in The Undertaker. And so I think he deserves it himself because he's got a Hall of Fame career of his own.
Yeah, I mean, AJ Styles himself, has said that he does think he's done in the next 12 months. So listen, this is completely ruthlessly speculating, right? There's a lot of rumors, and there have been for like 6 months now, about Styles' contract being up imminently. And 6 months after that rumor first came out, he's still in the company. So I don't think it was that imminent. But the fact is, right, that if you look back at when he confirmed he signed his last deal, 4 years after that would be pretty much bang on after WrestleMania. And I have a feeling, based on the fact that AJ Styles currently isn't on WWE TV very regularly in this story with Logan Paul, he's kind of been not misused, but he just hasn't been used much, right? Plus, based on the fact that in potentially his final ever WrestleMania, they've given him Logan Paul, I have a feeling, and there's no source behind this, it's just a personal feeling, that perhaps, Clark, AJ Styles could be going to AEW, and WWE think that's already a done deal. So that's why they are booking him the way they are.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know, Ben. This is the hard part. It's AJ Styles we're talking about. At any moment, you can insert him into anything, like storyline wise. Any part of the card, any world title scene, any mid-card title scene, the tag belts, whatever it may be. So this is one of the hardest ones for me to speculate on, and I'm not even trying to default here. I just, I think it's interesting when people do this cap thing, like the 12 months thing with AJ.
Mm.
The
He
timing of
said
it,
that himself, to clarify.
right? No, I know he did, and that's where, like, I'm not going to argue with the man himself, but I'm like, I hate putting the cap on it. Like Cena doing it made sense to me.
Mm.
AJ doing it, it's like I would almost rather it be the final run when we find out organically, like he's just like, oh no, this is my last match. This
Yeah,
is the one,
I
right?
get that.
Yeah, it's hard for me to tell. Things change so quickly in wrestling, but he looks healthy every time out there. So I have a
He
hard time
does.
sitting here thinking like, oh, he's done at the end of this. And if he goes and signs with AEW for what? A short run? I don't know how
12
helpful
months,
that
I
is.
reckon. I
Yeah, I don't
reckon a
know.
12-month retirement run.
Yeah, and I don't know how helpful that is to anybody.
Oh, no, come on. That would
Well, it's
be
helpful to
hugely helpful.
AEW,
AEW
but
could
I
do
mean for
Styles Omega.
of course, but for AJ himself, right? If you're looking at it's capped at a 1 year run there already out of the
Mm.
gates. You're looking at a lot of projected losses likely during that time in great matches. Some wins, I'm sure he'd pick up some victories and whatnot. But like a world title reign, all these, the
I
fantasy
don't
booking
think he
we'd
wants
like
a
to
world
do.
title reign.
No, that's my point. And that's why I don't know that it's that beneficial
Mm.
for either, right? It's beneficial if that's what AJ wants to do for fun. I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Cope and Edge right now, though, is right. He's out there kind of having fun. Doesn't really. It's not that he doesn't care, but the priority isn't like this is going to be the most entertaining, reputation defining run of my career. He's out there having fun. That's what he's
Here,
doing. And
here's the thing, though.
if we keep bringing in guys that do the same thing like that, I don't know if that's the move for AEW. I'm just trying to provide multiple perspectives when it comes to that. I am in agreement though that, like, obviously anybody signing AJ Styles is a huge deal. So
Yeah.
don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that it's not a huge deal, the signing itself. I just don't know if it can deliver upon the promise given the current circumstances, and he's winding down to the end.
Here's what I think on the matter, right? I think if he goes to AEW, I am 100% certain he will be the biggest debut they've had since Bryan Danielson. I think he's going to be a bigger debut than Edge, especially if out of the gate he says, this is my last 12 months. I think part of the issue with Cope is the fact that, we don't know when it's going to be up. And kind of fans are just thinking, oh, he's not what it was. But if Styles does put a clock on it, I do think fans will have more of an interest because they're like we've seen with Cena, it's his last run. He can have these matches with Kenny Omega. He can run it back with Will Ospreay. I mean, a lot of people in the comments, DCX Warlords, one of them, is saying that AJ Styles' last match should be against Will Ospreay. Archie said the same thing earlier on to me in a chat. And you mentioned, putting a time on things, and I do usually agree. And I'm going to be honest here. I think AJ Styles' biggest mistake of his entire career was that interview he did in 2018, where he said, oh, I think I'll retire about in 2020, 2021. Because from that moment, from that interview, Vince McMahon no longer booked him in important storylines. He no longer booked him in big feuds. He no longer cared really about his character.
Undertaker?
And from there, Styles' run has just been so and so.
Yeah, I mean, The Undertaker was kind of the last of the big Styles matches, I think, at 36, basically.
Yeah.
That was the one. And then it from there, it just, I'm not saying it's fallen flat. He's wrestled big matches. It just doesn't feel as important. He doesn't feel like the top card guy all the time. You can put him there, but it's like if you put a shirt in the dryer too many times, it shrinks. And he keeps getting thrown in this same cycle of like back to the top, back to the bottom, back to the top, back to the bottom, like a dryer, right? And like it's just that, I think that's part of the issue.
No, I do completely get what you're saying there, Clark. I mean, we got a couple of comments here. We got one from Shard saying, what's good? How are you, Shard? Hope you're having a great day. And also, we do have a comment which I want to quickly read out from D6 Warlord, who said AJ Styles was supposed to debut on the original Dynamite. And that is true as well. Right? Styles has confirmed it. AEW have confirmed it. Kenny Omega, I think, most recently spoke about it as well. And that would have been a huge moment. It would have been, a real defining moment out of the gates from AEW, kicking things off on Dynamite with a bang. No doubt about that one. I mean, listen, he's done a few things in WWE since then, but again, to your point, Clark, other than that Undertaker match when he signed a new deal, and again, like you said as well, to your point, when he's put in those positions, he delivers. It's just, I don't think his booking is necessarily a priority for WWE. And for that reason, and I don't say this very much, I really do think him going to AEW right now would be the best move for him. Obviously, to your point, he can do whatever he wants, but I do think to end his career in AEW is the best move.
I have no problem with it at all. I'm a huge AEW fan, and I'd love to see it. I just wish if we were going to get AJ Styles in AEW, we didn't have a cap on the length of it. That's the only thing that scares me. And it goes back to this conversation can go in a loop 1,000 times, because that's the only caveat for me is just, I don't want it to be like this is the end of AJ and he's going to have his last 12 months here. Right.
I think
want
that's nice.
AJ to get
in the demand.
See, I want him to get, if it was 2 years and we didn't know it, I would be all over it. Does that make sense? Or 18
He's not
months.
Going to be the same guy in 2 years.
I just don't want it to be, it has to end now. Like we've, and maybe John Cena ruined that for everybody. Right. But at the same time, I don't like the idea of like, you got me for this long. Danielson sort of just did it. We knew it. But I always liked that the mystery was still there with Bryan Danielson. With AJ, I want a little more mystery. And it feels like we're not totally getting it. If he goes to AEW and it's official, like it's 1 year, I hope he goes to AEW and is like, I signed a long-term deal. And if he retires after a year and a half, that's fine. But surprise me a little bit.
Do you know? I don't know. I do see your point, Clark. It is kind of a bit overdone, but I do think to keep fans interested in him and to keep it feeling special, that is the move. But do you know what I'd actually do, right? Pretty much all of us here have been predicting Omega versus Okada at All In for months, ever since they stood under that sign and they did that camera shot. I think Omega Okada, you do that at All In. Post-match, Styles shows up if he's out of contract by then. And then he announces, I'm going to be here for a year. I'm retiring next year at All In. And there you go.
That would be cool. Okay, that'd be cool.
And then also you'd sell tickets for the stadium show next year.
Yeah, even Sting last match, like we've built so many around this.
Sting is the one in it. The one in AEW they have done,
yeah. I just like the idea of a little element of surprise. Don't give us so much time to sit in it and be like, we don't get to see him anymore. I get it sells a lot of merch. I understand the marketing side.
And not only that, but I feel like, again, when people, because Styles had 2 bangers with Cody this past year, right? He can still go in the ring, undoubtedly. He can put on 5-star matches. There's no doubt about it. But he isn't the same AJ Styles from 10 years ago. If you don't put a cap on it, the length for his contract is unknown, then I do feel you're going to have people going, oh, this isn't the AJ Styles we expected. Oh, I don't really care about him, in a similar way as to what they're doing with Cope. Whereas if you put 12 months on it, you put a cap on it, I don't think people are going to say that because they're going to be too busy, trying to not take it for granted.
Right. That is a good point. It is kind of like a hater blocker. In a little bit of a way, right? Like it's a little bit of like a wait, you know what I mean? And I think that's a little bit, not to keep hearkening on Cena, but that's the brilliance of what he did, is like he had the ultimate hater blocker. This is the last time all the people that booed him were cheering him for the first time in years. And he was like, you know what? No. And I dig that. That's one of my favorite things about pro wrestling, is that type of storytelling, that type of character work. I love that. It's an old school Carney move, but I dig it.
Shard saying that he didn't know Styles was going to show up on the first Dynamite. Yeah, so that's the reason why Styles has an issue with Paul Heyman. I mean, we don't know if they've sorted it out since, but he's been vocal about his issues with Paul Heyman the last few years. Basically, Paul Heyman convinced him and the Good Brothers, who were both meant to show up on the debut episode of Dynamite, to sign new deals with WWE, and they were going to be massive parts of his version of Raw because he was in charge of Raw at that time. Then the pandemic came around, and Paul Heyman put the Good Brothers on the list of people who, could get cut because Vince asked him for a list, and he gave the Good Brothers, according to AJ, on that list. And that's why AJ called Heyman a liar or whatever he did in the interview a few years back.
That one's iconic. I know all about that one. I mean, we did see the Good Brothers in AEW. I've seen it. I was there.
We did eventually, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we got the Good Brothers.
Maybe to your point, that Carl Anderson was wearing an AEW hoodie.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They do sell those at the merch stands, though. That was probably a gift, though.
I don't think it's just such a Carl Anderson thing to do. But it also is such a Carl Anderson thing to do to just go back there now and just for the paycheck.
He just does what he wants.
Yeah.
I actually respect that, too. He's just like, yeah, okay.
They just care about money, and they're so honest about it too. It is, it's like, fair enough. You can't hate it if you're being honest.